My grandfather was sitting on our porch feeding birds when the HOA president pulled a gun and shot him in the chest. I still hear the sound in my head, the crack that shattered our quiet street and changed everything about the way I see neighbors' power and what it means to fight back. One second he was whispering to sparrows, the next I was pressing my hands against his shirt, trying to stop the blood screaming for help while she ran back to her house like nothing had happened. That's how this nightmare started. My name's Daniel, and I grew up on Maple Street. It wasn't fancy, but it was the kind of place where you knew the mailman's name, kids rode their bikes till the streetlights came on, and old folks sat outside on porches. My grandfather, Henry Miller, was one of them. Vietnam vet, proud father of 5, a man who worked construction until his stroke put him in a wheelchair. He lost movement in his legs, but not his spirit. Every morning, like clockwork, he'd wheel himself out, scatter birdseed, and wait for the sparrows to land on his lap. That was his joy. But Maple Street had a shadow. Her name was Karen Blackwood, the HOA president. Blonde hair sprayed so stiff it never moved, heels clicking like she was strutting into a boardroom. She wasn't just enforcing rules, she was inventing them. Fining people for trash cans, yelling at kids for sidewalk chalk, threatening to ban holiday decorations because they were tacky. People tolerated her because she had power. And the thing about power, some people will do anything to remind you they have it. That morning I was inside making coffee when I heard the shouting. Her voice carried shrill, sharp cutting through the quiet like a siren. "Move that wheelchair off the sidewalk right now." I glanced out and saw her marching toward my grandfather like a storm cloud. He looked up confused but polite. "Ma'am, I'm not hurting anyone," he said. "I'm just feeding the birds." She wasn't hearing it. "This is a violation of community standards." She snapped, face flushed red. I could feel my pulse racing. He wasn't blocking anything. The sidewalk was clear. This was her flexing, pure and simple. I ran out yelling, "Karen, that's enough." She spun on me, eyes blazing. "Your grandfather is making our neighborhood look bad. He needs to move inside." I tried reasoning. "He's on our property. He has every right," but she cut me off. "The sidewalk is community property, and I make the rules." Grandpa's shoulders sagged. He'd fought wars, built homes, raised kids, and here he was being belittled on his own porch. Still, he turned his chair to head inside, whispering, "If it bothers you that much." And then she did it. She reached into her purse and pulled out a pistol. My heart dropped. "That's right," she sneered, waving it. "Maybe this will teach you to follow the rules." I screamed at her to stop. Grandpa froze, staring at that weapon pointed at his chest. He tried to calm her. "Ma'am, please don't do anything crazy." She laughed this chilling sound. "Crazy? I'll show you crazy." And she pulled the trigger. The crack was deafening. Birds scattered in every direction. Grandpa's body jerked back in the wheelchair, eyes wide with shock. "Grandpa." I bolted to him, blood soaking my hands as I pressed against his chest. He gasped. "Why? Why would you do this?" She stood there, gun still in her hand, until the reality hit. Then she turned and bolted toward her house. I dialed 911, voice breaking, begging them to hurry. Neighbors came running, Mrs. Rodriguez with towels, Mr. Johnson shouting, "I saw everything. That woman's insane." The ambulance arrived. They worked on him right there, then loaded him in. As they shut the doors, Grandpa grabbed my hand and whispered, "Don't let her win." Those words have never left me. At the hospital, I sat by his side as machines beeped and tubes ran from his body. Surgery saved him barely. The bullet missed his heart by inches but tore through his lung. He spent weeks in ICU, each day a battle. And while he fought for his life, I was fighting another war against the lies. Karen's lawyers went on TV claiming she acted in self-defense, that my grandfather was unstable and threatening. Hearing those words made me want to put my fist through the screen. My grandfather, the gentlest man alive, was being painted as the villain. And I'll be honest, I started to doubt myself. Sitting alone in that hospital room exhausted, I wondered if this was too big. She had money lawyers' influence. I was just one guy with an old man in a wheelchair. What if people believed her version? What if I couldn't protect him? Part of me wanted to give up, let it go, move somewhere else and leave Maple Street behind. But then I remembered the look in his eyes when he whispered, "Don't let her win." That wasn't just about survival. That was about dignity. If I gave up, she'd win twice. Neighbors rallied. Johnson handed me a USB stick. His security camera caught the whole thing. The video showed Karen storming up, pulling the gun, firing. No excuses, no gray area. Mrs. Rodriguez and half the block signed statements. Strangers online saw the footage and flooded social media with the hashtag Justice for Henry. Signs went up. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse. And then, like a lifeline civil rights attorney, Maria Santos offered to take the case pro bono. She looked me in the eye and said, "This isn't just about your grandfather. This is about everyone who's ever been bullied by people like her." The trial began 6 months later. The courthouse was packed every single day. Cameras flashing, reporters swarming, people in the gallery wearing T-shirts with Grandpa's face. The prosecutor opened with, "This case is simple. Karen Blackwood shot an innocent disabled man for no reason but hate and arrogance." Karen's lawyers spun their web talking about stress, about how my grandfather's wheelchair was an obstacle and even unbelievably a potential weapon. It was grotesque. Then Grandpa took the stand. He rolled himself up slowly, voice shaking but clear. "I was just feeding the birds. I never threatened her. I never raised my voice. I only wanted peace. You could have heard a pin drop. People cried." He wasn't just testifying, he was showing the world his humanity. One by one, neighbors testified. Rodriguez told the jury about the roses Karen tried to ban, saying people like me didn't belong. Johnson showed years' worth of petty fines. Even former HOA board members admitted they'd been scared to oppose her, describing how she said disabled people lowered property values. When Karen took the stand, she tried to cry, talking about community standards and keeping order. The prosecutor asked, "So shooting Mr. Miller was enforcing rules?" She snapped. "He was being difficult. He wouldn't listen. He made the neighborhood look bad." Gasps filled the courtroom. That mask she wore for years cracked right there. The prosecutor showed photos of the scene, plenty of sidewalk space, nothing blocked. "You shot an elderly man in a wheelchair," he said, voice booming, "because you didn't think disabled people deserved to exist in your perfect neighborhood. Isn't that the truth?" Her face crumpled. She muttered, "I just wanted him to go away." Those words sealed her fate. The jury didn't take long. 2 hours. Guilty of attempted murder. Guilty of assault with a deadly weapon. Guilty of hate crime enhancement. Karen collapsed in her chair as the verdict was read. The judge looked down, his voice cold. "Your actions were not just criminal, they were evil. You shot an innocent man out of prejudice and hatred. Society must be protected from people like you. 25 years in prison, no parole for 15. That was the moment the power she lorded over us crumbled into dust. The courtroom erupted, tears, hugs, shouts of relief. I gripped my grandfather's hand as tightly as I could. For the first time since that morning, I felt like we'd won, not just for him, but for everyone she'd ever terrorized. And that's where I'll end this story. Because justice isn't the party afterward, it's the exact second when the bully finally falls. Sometimes standing up feels impossible. Sometimes you want to give in. But the truth, you can't let them win.